Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how to import photographs into Lightroom CC. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about the catalog system and how Lightroom works with your files and a few things that it does do and a few things that it doesn't do. The catalog, which you see here as a .lrcat file, does not contain your images. It simply contains information about your images, and it points to your images on a storage device. The previews file contains the larger JPEG previews that it renders based on your catalog settings, and this can grow to quite a large file. The reason why the Adobe engineers kept it separate is so that you could back up your catalog, which is the most important thing when you're working with Lightroom, and not have to back up a massive previews file which can be generated from the original files at any time. So let's get started. I'm going to double click on this to launch Lightroom. And as you see here, we have no images in this demo library. So what we want to do is go over to the Import button. And what it's going to do, this dialog box is divided up into three main areas. Over here you have a select a source, which we will do in a minute, and then it says what do you want to do with those source files you've just selected. Copy as DNG, copy, move, or simply add. These are important decisions to make, and then based on the decision here, this column over here will change. If you're just adding them, you have much less information to deal with versus if you're going to copy them as a DNG or copy or move. So add has the least options. Normally you will want to copy the files or copy them as DNG, especially if you're copying from your flash card. So we are going to copy as DNG. Because this is a demo, I am going to simply pick a folder of images that I've put on my desktop, but this very well could be from a flash card. If you plug in your flash card, Lightroom it'll show up as a hard drive. There's a little symbol over here, and you'll select it and import. So you click on it, all photos. I recommend including subfolders. If things don't show up, sometimes you might have that unchecked. So now we look at these. We're going to just do all photos. You can also click new photos in case you've used this card before and you've downloaded or imported a few and you don't want duplicates. So we're going to do all photos and we're going to copy as DNG. I'm an advocate of the DNG format, which is an open source raw file format, which is supported by Adobe and some camera manufacturers. Right now these are .cr2 files. But we're going to copy them as DNG, and then what you have is a bunch of decisions to make about how you're going to handle the files once they're inside the catalog. I recommend building standard previews at a minimum. Unless you have tons of hard drive space, you can select one-to-one. Standard doesn't really tell you much about how big the previews are. That is determined by going to your catalog settings over on the left here. And under file handling, based on the system that Adobe, what kind of graphics card you have, what kind of RAM, if it's set to auto, it says, okay, for this computer you have, 2560 pixel is the standard preview size. You can choose smaller, you can choose larger. We're going to just keep it on auto. Preview quality. It'll be a good quality JPEG, really quite useful for just reviewing and flagging, ranking, and rating your images. And if you do generate a one-to-one preview, which is created when you start editing and developing your image, it can delete them if you have it set after 30 days. It will always regenerate if you go back to that file. It just helps with efficiency a little bit. Okay, so that's build previews. I recommend creating a file naming system, which we'll talk about at a later time. Right now we're not going to. We can have develop settings applied during import. We're not going to do that right now. And metadata. I recommend creating a metadata preset, which we can do a new one right now. We can title it Import Demo. Option G will get you that. You can type that. Copyrighted. You can add a bunch of things which will be tagged as metadata into your files. So when you share them online or they get on your website, all of this will, you can pick email, all of this will go with your images, etc., etc., etc. We're not going to do all this, but you can add it in, hit create, and there it will be, and all of that information will be put inside each file. You can also keyword en masse, so to speak, where if you've shot everything on a particular location, you can say Utah or Arches National Park or something like that, and keywords are really useful for sorting and finding images at a later time. Since we're going to copy them as a DNG, by default, Lightroom will put these photographs in your pictures folder. By default, the catalog is also created and stored in your pictures folder. It makes sense. You can put them anywhere. You can pick any folder on your hard drive or external drive as needed. We're just going to allow this to happen. It's going to copy from the desktop to the pictures folder. One very important point to really emphasize here is to make sure that once images are inside your Lightroom catalog, you only move them inside the Lightroom catalog. Say you need to move a folder from one hard drive to another, you do not go through the Finder and drag them, because then Lightroom will say, hey, wait a minute, these images were here and now I can't find them. You always will move them from within the Lightroom system, which you can drag and drop and move. And that's fairly easy. Once we get into this, I'll show you how to do that. So make sure you don't go willy-nilly moving stuff around on your computer if they are a part of a Lightroom catalog. That's it in a nutshell. Now we're going to click Import. It's going to copy files as DNG, apply this metadata to this folder. Just take a few minutes. You get a progress bar on the top left. Okay, once they are imported, you may get a progress bar up here. Here it says it's building standard previews and it's converting to DNG. Older versions of Lightroom simply converted to DNG upon import, but now it imports, then it builds the previews, then it converts to DNG. And in fact, it's doing this in a multi-threaded sort of way. It's doing it at the same time. You can cancel any of these processes in case you're like, I'm not going to finish converting, or I don't have time to have standard previews rendered. You can do that. But it's very nice that you could actually start editing images if you so chose, and it'll continue to work in the background. Once your images are in Lightroom, you can start editing them. You see the all photographs, previous import, and now you see over here, this is the name of the hard drive. This is the folder by year, and then the date. And every time you import images, it will organize it, unless you tell it differently, by year, and it will have another folder by a different date. And so that is the standard way that Lightroom organizes images: year, month, day. All right, that is it for this particular demonstration. It should be enough to get you going, and I hope you enjoy getting to know Lightroom.